Welcome to Nona's Here. I'm Nona, and today I am joining in the Hello Spring Challenge. Our hosts are Tammy from the Rusted Willow and Ellie from DIY from House to Home, and the guest host is Shannon from Shannon's Crafty DIYs. So be sure and check out the playlist of everyone that is joining in today for the Hello Spring Challenge, and you'll get lots of good ideas of different crafts to make for spring. All right, let's get over to my craft table and I'll show you what crafts I am doing for Hello Spring. DIY number 1. Now this is going to be a spring bunny, not an Easter bunny. So I'm using this sign from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove that little hanger in the back. I'm going to use this scrap paper, this little bunny cutout from Dollar Tree, and some chalk paint in white, and then the antique wax, the little cutout bunny, some carrots, and wood glue, a glue stick, and I'm going to make a hanger using twine and some beads that I had. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw around the sign and cut out the scrap paper and then fit it inside so that it will cover the backing. It's just a real neutral piece of scrap paper. It has little flowers on it. So I'm fitting it inside, and then I'm going to use my scraper to really push it into the edges so that I get a real distinct way to see where I need to cut it to fit in there real tight. Then I'll use my little cutter there and cut it so that it fits in nice and tight against the edges. Then I use my glue stick to glue it down nice and tight. Then I took the little bunny and I painted him white, because remember, this is a spring bunny, not an Easter bunny. Then I took my antique wax and I dry brushed him. And the baby wipes while I was dry brushing them. And if I got too much antique white on them, I just wiped it off. So I fiddled with that until I got them to look like a little brown spring bunny. So I'm dry brushing them now. And I like doing this. It's kind of fun. So I dry brushed them and then I wiped off. And then I dry brushed some more and then I wiped off until I got them to look just how I wanted them to look. And I took some twine and I tied a bow around his neck. Now I wanted my bunny to stand out inside the shadow box. So I took 2 tumbling blocks and glued it on the back of the bunny so he would be 3D. So you'll be looking for a spring bunny with a little twine bow around his neck this spring. And he'll be the bunny that I made. Then I had some of this reindeer moss, and I used some spray glue, and I glued that around the bottom of my picture. And I took one of those little carrots from Dollar Tree that you get in a pack of 5, and I hot glued it to the side of the picture. And then I had taken some beads and strung them. I left them their natural color, and I strung them as a holder. And that is as easy as it gets. That's my little Hello Spring bunny, all done. I think he's rather cute. Tell me what you think in the comments below. DIY number 2. All right, for this one, I bought this board at Dollar Tree. Now, the front looks like it has creases in it, but the back does not, and I'm going to use the back. So I'm squeezing out the very, very last bit of my maize chalk paint. It's yellow. And I'm going to paint the whole board yellow. And then I'm getting out everything that I have in my stash of flowers and just everything I have because I'm going to use them up. And so now I'm going to paint some wooden letters that I have. And this is how I paint my letters. I hate painting these wooden letters because they slide all over. So I take duct tape and I glue it down sticky side up. Then I put my letters on the sticky side of the duct tape and I paint them sticking down on the duct tape. That way they don't slide around and I can move my little tray around and get the edges all around the letters. And I find this is just the easiest way to paint my wooden letters. So I just paint them and I go back and make sure I have all the edges painted, and then I let them dry and they easily peel off the duct tape, and I haven't been chasing the letters all over my board or table to try and paint them. It's just the easiest way I found to paint letters. So that's what I'm doing there. So I've painted out spring in the wooden letters in this moss green. That's all I'm doing there. I'm making sure I get the insides of the letters and all the edges. So when I get done doing that, I let them dry. See, I can turn I have them on a cookie sheet. I just can turn it all around. Now I want these letters to stick out a little bit. I could have used wood glue, but I wanted them to be a little bit more three-dimensional. So I took my foam adhesive and I cut little squares and I put them on the back of each letter. Now I'm laying it out. I always do this. I lay out how I think I want the banner or the board or whatever you call it, the swag, to look. Also, I had gotten this little welcome sign with the bicycle on at Dollar Tree. So I use that at the top. It not only makes the welcome part, but it also makes the hanger. I put a little pink butterfly at the top and I made a blue bow. And then I hot glued all my flowers down and they're all overlapping. And you can see that some come out to the side, the board or swag. They kind of overflow the sides and the bottom, and I like that. I think it draws the eye upward and out, and it makes it more interesting. So I like that. You can see where the butterfly goes up over the top. So I like that. Okay, on to DIY number 3. I interrupt this crafting for a short self-promotion commercial. I am really trying to get my subscriptions up to 500. Now I've had many new subscribers and I certainly give a big notice here welcome to you all. And I do appreciate all my prior subscribers. But if some of you have not subscribed to my channel yet, I would certainly appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button. It's free. And then be sure and hit the bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Also, if you like my video, I'd appreciate it if you'd give me a thumbs up like and make a comment. That helps my video get noticed. Okay, enough of the commercial. Let's get back to crafting. And thanks. DIY number 3. Even I look a little surprised. All right. For this one, I'm going to use pine cones. Now, we normally don't think of pine cones when it comes to spring, but I'm going to use pine cones, which my sweet, sweet daughter-in-law collected for me. And these are Texas pine cones. They aren't the kind that are real sharp and, have pricklies on the side. But are they hard to cut? I watched several videos on Pinterest about pine cones, and the other people were just cutting them in half using these kind of tools, and they were just zipping along. Well, not me. I either don't have the right tools or I'm not strong enough. So I had to resort to using a hacksaw. So I was eventually able to cut them in half using my strong tools that I had to start it, and ending up having to use my hacksaw to eventually cut them in half. And that way I would get 2 flowers out of each of the large pine cones. Okay, so I'd cut them in half, and there you can see I'd cut off the top half of the stem, and I'd use the bottom part of the pine cone for 1 flower, and then the top half of the pine cone for another flower. So at least I was getting 2 flowers out of each of the large pine cones. But I got to tell you, they were hard to cut apart. So then I had to get out my heavy-duty tools, the awl. That's that sharp little thing there. And let me tell you, be careful. This is dangerous. See what I'm doing there? 1 slip of the awl and there's a trip to the emergency room. I did not have to go to the emergency room. Then I used these bamboo sticks to stick in the bottom of the pine cones to use as stems. That wasn't easy either because it was hard to make holes in some of the pine cones on the bottom to stick the bamboo skewers in. All right, so here I am hacksawing away the pine cones. And I put those 2 boards down so I had some kind of leverage. All right, so I'm still trying to cut these. I'd get them started with these cutting tools, and then I'd finish the job with the hacksaw. My grumpy grandpa came in and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm cutting up pine cones." Oh, by the way, I did put the pine cones in the oven at 250 for 20 minutes, just in case they had any Texas bugs on them. All right, so now this is really dangerous. I ended up putting a pillow on my lap and using the awl on my lap so that the awl didn't slip and hurt me. Now I'm just painting the center of some of the pine cones with a different color to make the pine cone flowers have a different color. Now you see that spray paint in the back? Well, I took down the spray paint and the larger pine cones and I spray painted them, but the smaller pine cones I painted by hand. You could paint those large pine cones by hand if you had lots of time. And let me give you a little tip. If you're going to spray paint the pine cones, put on gloves. My hands were covered in spray paint for days. Now I'm just going back and touching up the pine cones with different colors for the centers and touching up some of the edges of the leaves to give them different colors to make them look real pretty. See, I'm just touching up the centers and the edges of the leaves. Okay. That's all I'm doing there. Now I've gotten the dowels in the bottom of the pine cones, which I have stuck in styrofoam and painted with moss green. So all the stems are painted moss green. See, there's my hands. They're all painted. Be really careful using that awl. And I used some hot glue. Then, I guess I forgot to show you, I had a green bean can, a large one. And so I washed it out and I painted it moss green. And then I took my styrofoam and jigsawed it apart and put it in the bottom to hide. I hot glued it in so I had something to stick the stems into, the dowels into. So I hot glued all it in, and then I stuck my pine cones in, my pine cone flowers, and that's what they look like. My spring flowers of pine cones. Then I had some little letters in my stash, a whole bag full, and I picked out the letters. See how that purple one, that teal blue one, I had painted the edges with some purple just to give it a little bit of color. All right, so then I had these letters, and I picked out the letters to say, "Hello, Spring," which is our theme, Hello, Spring. And I stuck those on the green bean can, which I painted green, and that was the end of this DIY. There you go, and I'll show you some pictures. And those are my 3 Hello Spring Challenge crafts. Tell me which one was your favorite down below. Actually, I think the pinecone flowers came out really cute. I was surprised. And it was fun, and other than using the awl to make the holes, it was easy. Okay. Once again, I want to thank our hosts, Tammy from the Rusted Willow, Ellie from DIY From House to Home, and the guest host, Shannon from Shannon's Crafty DIY. Be sure and check out their channels and the playlist of all the other crafters who have joined in today. Thanks for viewing my video, and I hope to see you again soon at Nona's Here. Bye.